What is cocaine withdrawals like? A lot of times we don't share what some of the cocaine withdrawals are like, and I wanted to, just for anybody out there struggling, because it is my passion that nobody goes it alone, especially if you're an addict and you're trying to clean up your life. If you're new to the channel, hit the like and subscribe button. Cocaine withdrawal. You know, there's a whole mental side to cocaine withdrawal that was a pain in the ass. I've been sober from cocaine for over 3 years, almost 5 months. I got sober on 7/25/17 is my sobriety date. Cocaine was one of the hardest drugs that I got sober from. A big part of it was the mental side. I loved the ability that I could just snort something and it made me numb everything right away. That's what really drew me to cocaine, because it energized me. It actually allowed me to focus. I think a little bit of that had to do with the ADHD inside me. But it was one of those that it made me feel good. It just made me feel happy. It was like that instant happiness. If there was ever a happiness drug, that was it for me. And unfortunately, it was such an unhealthy and it's such a bad habit that it was something I had become reliant on for a while. When I got sober from coke, I was doing 1 to 2 8-balls a day, and I never blew out like my septum or have holes in my nose and that sort. I do have a lot of sinus issues, and I do have issues with the sense of smell. My sense of smell is horrible. When it comes to my sinuses are horrible. But thankfully, I don't have any large holes, at least that I know of, up my nose. I'd be really surprised if I didn't, though, if somebody went up there and was like, hey, yeah, you kind of blew out this whole portion of your nose, because I did a massive amount of coke. When I got sober from it, I was detoxing from alcohol at the same time. The detox of alcohol kind of overlapped a little bit. I had a lot of the hot, cold sweats. That was really difficult because the hot, cold sweats, I mean, you could go inside and be dripping sweat. And then next thing you know, I step outside and I'd be shivering. It was such an extreme hot and cold that it makes your body ache more. It makes you feel everything more. You could feel your hair growing. You could feel your hair hurting. I don't even have hair, and it felt like I had hair, but I could hear it growing. I could feel it growing. It really starts to screw and fuck with your brain, down to the point of nothing worse than the visuals of, like, you think you see bugs and stuff. I'm one of my big ones, and I still get them every now and then. It's like, I'll see something like move across the room, and next thing you know, I'm digging through everything trying to find an imaginary bug. But you also have those crawls like on your skin that you swear to God there is something on you, and you're scratching at it, and you're picking at it, and you end up kind of destroying your body. Another huge one that was a physical one for me was the restless legs. I think restless legs are overlooked more than anything. I didn't find any kind of coping for feeling my hair grow or anything like that, but the restless legs, just in the fact that they twitch, that you're laying there and you're just kind of like flexing them and they're moving, is so frustrating. And baths do help. Taking magnesium helps. Working out helps. And yeah, it's hard to work out, especially when you're getting sober and you're detoxing, because your body hurts like no other. So trying to really work out and walk is a hard one. But it is also fascinating that when you are around support and your brain is shifted, and especially if you're going to like a meeting or you're sitting with somebody, going through your experiences with them, how all of a sudden it all kind of goes away. Like the whole restless legs, like the pain, all that, it's like a temporary reprieve. I think that's almost one of the reasons why they always tell you, like, hey, talk to people, get support. Because when you're talking to somebody and you're conversing with somebody, you almost lose a lot of the symptoms out there. Your brain stops focusing on the pain. It stops focusing. I mean, I had a runny nose for a long time. I had a lot of issues going to the bathroom. It really screwed up my stomach. One of the biggest things that screwed up everything was my stomach, and it was big for me to remember to stay hydrated. I mean, if you're going through that detox, because you do have these night sweats and you are sweating so much in the hot and cold, and you're getting these body aches, and let's face it, at least with me, I had massive diarrhea. And I mean, I was peeing out my asshole. So drinking a lot of water, keeping your hydration level up is huge. The last thing you want to do is get dehydrated, because that kicks your ass even more. You're already fighting to try and get out of bed. And next thing you know, you're dragging your ass down to a meeting and you hear everybody talking. At least it gives you that bit of a break in your head, because you constantly are getting these random urges and just the mental instability that you're going through, because it's almost like you become fascinated with it. And coke was so hard for me because it wasn't like heroin. It wasn't like meth. It wasn't like any of these other drugs out there. Cocaine to me was like this magical drug that made me instantly happy. When I drank a lot, I became very, very depressed. I became massively depressed. I would be just a wrecking ball of crying and bawling, and I'm a failure, and just self-destructing myself Where with Coke, I wasn't that way. And then it also allowed me to even drink more. And I would do so much Coke to the point where I felt like I was a bubblehead. Like everybody's eyes looked like they were big bubble eyes. And it was like just shaking because there would be so much Coke in my system. And I would ride it out knowing that it was going to fade off. When you get to that point though, and it just gets cut out of your body, it's like the first day, it's hard because everyone's like, hey, get sober. It's so worth it. That first day isn't too bad because you're like gun ho. You're like, dude, I got this. I need to get sober. I'm going to change my life. Life is going to be so much better. People don't tell you about the restless legs. I mean, you want to rip your legs off. It's like you almost want to tie them up so that they stop fidgeting, they stop moving, and they stop with the feelings in them. And it's not even anything to do with your toes or your feet. It's just your legs. The magnesium does help to a point. The bath helps to a point. Just having that warm water and just being able to kind of like massage out the legs. Taking some walks also helps. But man, getting around others and talking, it just allows you to forget about it. Well, that's a big one. Is just being able to forget about it, having that break, and then knowing that you're not alone. Because there was nothing medication-wise that you could really take. I mean, if you're detoxing and stuff from heroin and opiates, you do have Suboxone or methadone. I mean, there's various ways out there to taper off of benzos. So much of that other stuff with Coke, it's not almost treated like a normal addiction in the way of, oh, well, it's just Coke. You know, alcohol addiction is treated way more serious than what cocaine is. And there's reasoning behind it. I mean, alcohol addiction, when you're getting sober from it, that detox can kill you. But there is a lot of truth to be said that cocaine addiction is real. And we play it off so much because it is probably the most socially accepted drug that there is. People are like, you know, it's a recreational drug. You do it on the weekends. It's a very expensive drug, so people don't think that, you know, somebody's necessarily going to go out and abuse it. Well, man, I found ways to abuse it. And unfortunately, at the time, I made a lot of money. And I was able to abuse it. And now that my jobs have changed up and I have a lot of money again, it's one of those that I have to be careful because I know I could easily jump back onto that bandwagon because it was so easy for me to do. It was such an enjoyable drug to me. And I have to remember that, hey, I cannot romanticize about this. And doing a gratitude journal, it's so important for me to remember of what that detox was like going through because that's what helps keep me sober. Reminding myself that, hey, I have a lot of money in the bank and it's because I'm not doing drugs. I have a lot of money in the bank and I can have a life that I want. And guess what? I can enjoy those memories because I'm not doing drugs. I mean, a lot of it comes down to I'm not doing drugs. Don't do drugs. Don't do drugs, kids. If you want to do drugs, don't do drugs. I mean, I hated cocaine, but I loved the way that it smelled. So it just caused me to do more and more and more. If I could go back and just tell myself anything when it came to that was, man, I would just beat the shit out of myself because I don't think anyone should go through that experience. It's a brutal experience. And just feeling like you have the cold, feeling your body ache, feeling your hair grow is a fucking unique one. I mean, you're just sitting there feeling it grow. And then like it hurts and your body just randomly hurts in areas that you would never even imagine. I mean, next thing you know, you have this lower back pain out of nowhere and you're putting a fucking heating pad on it or an ice pack on it. And then next thing you know, like your fingers hurt. It's kind of like almost like you're stemming a little bit when you're going through the detox. It's like you're constantly like, you feel like your muscles moving in there and you feel your bones just so brittle. It's so much internal pain. And then you throw in the mental side of the detox. At least for the physical side of the detox, the worst for me was the hot, cold sweats. The mental urges was the worst for me. The restless legs were horrible. That, though, faded away within about a month. And the mental detox, though, was a lot longer. The mental detox of realizing, hey, you don't need this, you don't want this, don't have this in your system. It took a lot of almost convincing, selling myself and reminding myself of how important my sobriety is and why am I actually getting sober. You know, I was getting sober for myself. I wanted a better life. I wanted an enjoyable life. And I didn't want to keep repeating a very self-destructive cycle that I constantly did while using. I didn't care about anybody. I didn't care about myself. I didn't care about anybody. And I just wanted to do what I wanted to do. I became very selfish. I became very manipulative. I became obsessed with one thing, and that was just to get high. I sacrificed a lot of friendships. I ruined a lot of relationships. I ruined a lot of work time. I mean, there was so much destruction that was in my path in getting sober. So if you are out there and you are struggling with cocaine addiction, there's even some cocaine anonymous groups out there where you can get there, because it is sometimes difficult. I mean, call it what it is. You go to an NA meeting and you'll tell somebody, hey, I'm, cleaning up from coke, and they're like, oh, well, it's only coke. I'm like, yeah, I wasn't sucking dick for fucking heroin. I'm sorry, Karen. I mean, let's face it, it has that little bit of a different stigma to it, but there are groups out there, and it's finding those people that you can relate to, people that understand, because a lot of people don't understand what it's like to feel your hair grow, or your fucking feel your hair have pain, or what it's like to just want to rip your skin off because there's stuff on your skin, but you can't see it, but you know it's there because you can feel it. That's all what that withdrawal is. But also, I found having a calendar and knowing where I was in the detox and how many weeks I was into it, of knowing that I'm getting closer and closer to the end help, because shit, when you're going through it, 3 days feels like 3 weeks. And you're like, man, this isn't over yet. It's only getting worse. And you don't realize that, man, it's only been a couple days. Having that realization of keeping track and like reinforcing your brain that, hey, it's only been a couple days. You got this. Look how many days you went so far. And those days get easier and easier and easier. If you're struggling out there, though, reach out for help. Don't do it alone. I mean, if you want to know the easiest way to do it, just start letting everybody in your life know that you're an addict and you are struggling and you need help and this is what you're addicted to. And a lot of people, you'd be surprised, already know that you're an addict. And next thing you know, they're proud of you for starting to speak up about it, and they want to help you. And you have to want it. That's a big one, is you got to want it. Because if you don't want it, next thing you know, just start repeating the same cycle and the same cycle and the same cycle, and it's not worth it. So don't repeat that cycle. If you want it, go get it. And you got this shit. You matter.